Most people have no idea where they stand, not because the information is hidden, but because nobody tells you the benchmark. Your financial advisor doesn't sit you down and say, here's exactly how your balance compares to everyone your age. Your employer doesn't announce at the company meeting that the median 40-year-old in this room has less than $45,000 saved. Your friends don't mention their net worth at dinner. So most people live in this financial fog. They assume they're roughly average, they assume average is fine, and they're wrong on both counts. My name is Joe. I spend way too much time digging into the actual data, not the highlight reel, not the feel-good averages, the real distribution of wealth in this country. What I've found is a gap so wide between the top and the bottom that it redefines what doing okay actually means, and most people are nowhere near where they think they are. But here's the thing. If you're watching a video like this, if you're someone who actually thinks about money, tracks spending, understands compound interest, there's a real chance you're already ahead in ways you don't recognize. So today I'm giving you 10 signs, real data-backed signs that you are financially ahead of the majority of Americans. Not in a congratulatory way, in a clarifying way. Because understanding where you are is the first step to knowing where you actually need to go. Subscribe and give this a thumbs up if it helps. Let's get into it. Sign 1. You have any retirement savings at all. Sounds absurd, right? But according to the Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances, roughly 28% of Americans have zero retirement savings. Nothing in a 401k, nothing in an IRA, zero. If you have even $1,000 saved for retirement, you are already ahead of more than 1 in 4 adults in the richest country in the world. Let that sit for a second, because most people hear these numbers and assume that's someone else's problem. It usually isn't. Sign 2. You have 3 months of emergency expenses saved. FEMA, the disaster agency, found that nearly 60% of Americans said they couldn't cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money or selling something. 3 months of expenses saved puts you in rare company. Most people are 1 car repair away from credit card debt. If you're not, that buffer isn't just financial comfort, it's what lets you hold positions, stay invested during crashes, and avoid panic selling at exactly the wrong moment. Sign 3. You don't carry a credit card balance month to month. The average American household carrying credit card debt owes about $7,200. The average interest rate on that debt sits around 22%. That's roughly $1,500 a year in pure interest payments, not touching the principal. If you pay your card off every month, you're in the minority, and the math that's quietly destroying your neighbors is simply not running in your life. That's not a small thing. Sign 4. You started investing before age 35. According to Fidelity, the average Americans open their first investment account is 38. Think about what that means. If you're 28 with a brokerage account, you have 10 years of compound growth that most people simply skipped. At 7% annual return, $10,000 invested at 28 becomes $76,000 by 65. The same $10,000 invested at 38 becomes $38,000. Same money, different start date, completely different outcome. Starting early isn't just good advice, it's the single highest leverage financial decision most people can make, and most people make it too late. Sign 5. You know your actual net worth. Not a rough guess, the real number. Assets minus liabilities. A Bankrate survey found that less than half of Americans could accurately estimate their own net worth within 20%. Most people know their income, very few know their balance sheet. If you've ever actually sat down, added up your accounts, subtracted your debts, and arrived at a real number, you're operating with more financial clarity than most adults who are supposedly managing their own money. Sign 6. You've maxed out a tax-advantaged account at least once. The 401k contribution limit in 2025 is $23,500. Fewer than 14% of eligible Americans maxed their contributions in the most recent Vanguard How America Saves data. The tax savings alone from maximizing these accounts can add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars over a career, compounding on money the government would have otherwise taken. If you've hit the limit even once, you've done something most people never do and probably never will. Sign 7. Your savings rate is above 15%. The personal savings rate in the United States as of early 2026 sits around 3 to 4%. That's the national average. Financial planners commonly recommend 15% as the floor for retirement security. If you're saving 15% or more, you are not just above average, you are saving at roughly 4 times the national rate. You are on a fundamentally different trajectory. And because the gap is structural, not occasional, your outcomes 20 years from now are going to look almost nothing like the people around you who earn similar incomes. Sign 8. You've never rated your retirement account early. The IRS collects roughly $5 billion per year in early withdrawal penalties. Every early withdrawal doesn't just cost you the 10% penalty and income taxes in the year it happens, it permanently destroys the compound growth on that money. A $15,000 withdrawal at age 35 doesn't cost you $15,000. It cost you the $115,000 that same money would have become by 65 at 7% returns. If you've kept your account untouched through job loss, financial stress, or just temptation, you've preserved something that millions of people quietly gave away during their hardest years. Sign 9. You have a written financial plan or something close to one. This one sounds soft until you see the data. The CFP board found that Americans with written financial plans are significantly more likely to feel on track for retirement and report lower financial stress. Yet only about 35% of Americans have any documented plan at all. A spreadsheet with your goals counts. A note in your phone with your retirement number counts. Most people have financial intentions. Very few have financial structure, and those two things are not the same. Sign 10. You feel mild concern about your finances, not constant panic. This sounds counterintuitive, but stay with me. A Federal Reserve study on financial well-being found that people with the highest well-being scores weren't necessarily the wealthiest. They were the ones with the most clarity. Constant panic is usually a signal of real problems. Complete calm is often a signal of dangerous unawareness. Mild concern, enough to stay engaged and make adjustments, but not enough to destabilize your decision-making, is the psychological fingerprint of someone who is actually in control. If you feel that low-grade awareness, rather than emergency mode anxiety, you're in a better position than most people realize.
Here's the uncomfortable truth behind all 10 of these signs. Most of them don't require a high income. They require habits, clarity, and time. The average income of someone who maxes their 401k is not dramatically higher than the median household income. What separates them is priority. They treated the contribution like rent, non-negotiable, automatic, not subject to monthly renegotiation based on what else came up. If you hit 7 or more of these signs, you are already in the financial minority. Not because you're lucky, not because the system worked perfectly for you, but because at some point you made a different set of decisions than most people around you, and those decisions are compounding silently right now, whether you feel it or not. If you hit fewer than 5, the gap isn't permanent, but you need to understand how far the average actually is from okay. Because average in this country means $87,000 in retirement savings by the time you're ready to stop working. Average means one paycheck from financial stress. Average is 71 years old still working, not because the plan failed, but because there never really was one. Understanding where you stand isn't arrogance, it's orientation. You cannot navigate without knowing your starting point, and now you know yours. Keep learning, keep asking the hard questions, and I'll see you in the next one.